And we're live. Thank you for joining us on a Friday evening. I'm amazed that people even showed up because most have social lives and we don't, apparently, because we're talking about The Witcher this Friday, which is, I think, an awesome show. And I'm joined by three extremely handsome toxic males. And I want to start with the one below me, the Observant Lineman. If you can say where they can find you and all about your channel.
What's going on, everybody? I am your Observant Lineman, Uche Waneri. You can find my channel. It is just my name, Uche Waneri. I'm sure somebody will throw it in, or I'll throw it in the chat since it's my name. But no, Mara Jade Shadow, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And to his right, I guess he goes by Mr. EU Muscles on Twitter. I've seen.
Well, that's what Mad Max calls me. He's about the only one at this point. But thanks for having me on, Mara. Yeah, I'm Ryan Kinel, RK Outpost. You may have seen me, you may not have. If you haven't, come check out my channel. Talk about Star Wars Expanded Universe, a little bit of DC, hashtag release the Snyder Cut, a little bit of Marvel when it's relevant, which right now it's just really not. But yeah, come check me out.
All right, cool. And for our token Australian representation, we have Lethal Lightning.
I'm that guy you find out on the corner of the street, legit flicking a coin to his local Witcher. That's where you'll find me.
There you go. Yep. So, speaking of The Witcher, yes, that's what we're talking about. And I figured we'd start with our overall impressions of the season. I know, Ryan, you said that you have like 2 more episodes to go through.
Yeah, so I have a confession to make. I haven't seen the whole thing yet. I tried to get it done today. I really enjoy it. The Cavill is awesome. So I've never read any of the books. I've only played the games. And Cavill is so spot on as Geralt. The voice, the mannerisms, it's just really good. Now, I will say the first couple episodes kind of threw me off because I didn't really understand what was going on with the time jumps.
Oh we'll get into that, but yeah.
Once I understood like what was going on, it made more sense and I was able to like really get into it. I'm really looking forward to see how it ends. So I like the fact that unlike The Mandalorian, which we've talked about, where there's so many like straight filler episodes that do nothing to advance the plot, the Witcher is kind of the filler in this show while you have a plot that's running throughout the entirety of it with Ciri. And so it's interesting that plot is always advancing in every episode.
Well, yeah, I think like, you say like The Witcher is like overall filler, but I think like it's 3 stories going on at once.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't, it slows down, but just enough to let you kind of, any emotional scene, just like, like de-stressed or whatever after whatever action scene is on and then go from there. So I really like how they go, like it's balance the action and the story building and the world building and then go back to action kind of situation where it's not straight action throughout the entire season. So, and unfortunately you had a stream not too long ago, that YouTube just
robbed me.
Yeah, they did.
They robbed me, and they still have not replied to my appeal for the the shutting down of my stream. It was a great stream. I felt we had a lot of input from the chat. We had some good talking points. They tried to shut us down a couple of times because I was picking little bits and pieces of episodes to show without sound, but they told me it was for deceptive practices, scams,
schemes and scams.
I was like, what? Well, me and Lethal were having a great stream, but
I need to give this to you, Uche, the sticker.
Schemes and scammers.
It's the rebrand for geeks and gamers. So.
There's just like they need to take a course on fair use because I don't know the ins and outs of basically the law surrounding fair use, but if you're not making money off of it and you're just showing clips, and it's public domain at this point since it was released on Netflix, then I don't see what the issue was.
And I have a Netflix account.
Yeah,
that I watched it on.
Like you're not, tapping into someone else's account and using their information.
Exactly.
You basically just like sign in. Look, it's my account. I'm playing this through here.
Exactly. I've heard in the past that fair use actually does not exist from the standpoint of content creation, but I don't know exactly, how. I don't know. It seemed ridiculous to me that they gave me a reason that had absolutely nothing to do with anything that we were even talking about.
No.
The problem is, the problem really is that fair use does exist, but the thing is, to get that cleared up, for some people, it might take lawyers. It might take you going to court to challenge it. That 99.999% of people aren't going to have the resources or the time or the energy to do. So it's just easier to just let it go, which is what everyone's going to do at the end. So it's easy. It's very easy to abuse it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I agree.
And what's your, I know you love it, Lethal. What are your overall impressions of this season?
Yeah, I really, really, really like it. There's not much in there that I didn't like, period. I pretty much liked everything about it. Like Ryan said, the time jump I felt could have been explained a little bit better, but it does make sense towards the end of the season. And then once it makes sense and everything clicks, it's all good. But overall, I loved it. This is I'd say, apart from Cobra Kai, I'd say is the best show of 2019. And this would be a solid number 2 for me.
I love Cobra Kai. They'd be tied for me because they're different genres almost. Yep. So it'd be hard for me to compare them to enough to say, okay, one's number 1, one's number 2 kind of situation. So, but I can see where you put Cobra Kai at number 1 because it is very good.
Yeah, I really, really like this. Like Geralt, Henry Cavill as Geralt was perfect. The chick they got for Triss, like me and Uche talked a little bit about this. When she was first cast as Triss, not Triss, sorry, Yennefer. Everyone was a bit like, what's going on with this? But they definitely made 100% the right call. They took her into.
I like looking at her. So,
oh, dude, her boobs are
she's
fucking
beautiful.
Awesome.
She's gorgeous. And even on top of that, the Anya Charlotte. Her acting skills were, she won me over. She won me over by the 4th episode. I was like, that's Yennefer.
Yeah. Even when she wasn't making choices I entirely agreed with, based on her personality, I was still invested in her character enough that I wanted to see where she ended up.
Yep.
I wish you got rid of that hunchback, though.
There was still like a subtle beauty, even as the hunchback. I was like,
what the hell's wrong with you, Uche?
She's a hunchback,
She had that slack jaw. What are you
But it was like a soft slack, just a little bit to the side.
You bring up hunchback, Uche. Did you see what people were complaining about with the show? Is the fact that it has an ableist plot line running through it. Because she starts out an ableist, meaning.
Oh God!
So basically, they're upset that she starts as a hunchback and transforms herself, or gets herself transformed into a beautiful mage, basically. So they were upset. Plus, as pointed out in the article, that they did not hire a legitimately disabled person.
What? It's acting.
Well, that was my point in the video. I made a video about it. I'm like, what are they going to do? Scour the earth for a legitimate hunchback? And what are they going to do when she does transform, which is what happens?
It's a different person now.
I can't believe they didn't cast a hunchback who could actually turn into a regular person. What the hell?
They didn't actually cast a real mage.
No,
She actually doesn't have amethyst eyes. What the hell?
I did read that people are begging the showrunners to, I guess, make Geralt and Dandelion gay. Like,
oh my God, no!
Yeah,
they want them to be a thing, and it's like,
no,
you have not read the books, you have not played the games, no.
Yeah, this is what part of the reason why we were a little bit late, because I was getting my book. This is the first book, and part of the reason why I was used to the timeline was because it does do that in this.
Yeah, it jumps around.
It jumps around. So
But is it explained at all in that? Like, I guess all it would have taken for me, and maybe this would have been like, maybe they didn't want to like lay it out so bare and obvious for people, or maybe they wanted people to be just a little bit confused, and like trying to figure out what was going on, who weren't familiar with it. But yeah, when they did the time jump, I guess it would have been nice for them just to put something there so I knew what reference.
Maybe a little bit, but maybe it would have been a little bit too much exposition at that point. So. I mean, I don't know, maybe a line or two. Like, once you saw when Yennefer was, we'll go from like throughout the episodes, and when we get to the last two, we won't exactly go into too much detail for you, Ryan. But when the episode,
no, go ahead. Don't ruin it because I didn't get it watched. Make sure you guys talk about everything. So,
when she transforms herself and she goes into that party, I think that's where you saw a young Falstead and his sister. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
That's I figured out where, okay, here's where this takes place, here's where his takes place, and here's where Ciri takes place.
Yeah, that was in like the third or fourth episode or something, right?
Third, I believe.
Yeah, when he's fighting the bastard child of the
Striga
brother and sister, the Striga.
And also there was the scene in the carriage with Yennefer and the wife of Foltest, was it?
No. She was the wife of some ruler,
some king who she couldn't get him a boy.
They weren't really clear on who that was. Just that
they did. Yennefer did mention that she had been working in the court or in court with the king for 30 years at that point.
Yeah.
So that was kind of another nod to, okay, this is a different part of her life past when she transformed. Now you're skipping 30 years ahead. What a lot of people don't know, or I guess what a lot of people don't know who didn't play the games, I didn't read the books, but I did play the games, and I did a lot of YouTube research on the lore of Witcher over the last, 4 years.
YouTube academics respond.
Yeah, my YouTube bachelors. But Geralt is pushing, 200 plus years old.
Yeah, he doesn't age
in the game, and Yennefer is the same way. They don't age the same as regular humans. So that kind of, I could see where people get confused because they don't necessarily know that these people have been living a long time already. Yeah, and you're just kind of catching them at certain points.
Well, she's got elven blood, right? So that's what helps her live long.
Well, I don't think that was like that in the books, but I didn't read all of them, so I couldn't say. But in the show, it's sort of like heavily stated that she has elven blood in her, which according to that accounted for her like deformity, or part of her deformity for some reason, her twisted spine. So, but I don't recall. I don't think she was part elf, but don't hold me to that. As I said, I haven't read all the books. But it's like people have complained also that she kind of looks a little bit too young, and as you pointed out, Uche, that they don't age the same as we would normally do. So where she would be most likely in her like 50s or 40s or 50s at that point, and she looks like she's in her 20s. So I could buy that at that point.
Yeah, and I know in The Witcher 3 in the game, Geralt is actually like he is over 200 years old in Witcher 3, and Witcher 3 is. The Witcher games are supposed to be sequels to the books. So there is actually a place in the canon for the games.
So like, I guess like all I would have wanted time-wise was whenever you go to Ciri, like, or just a little text under be like present day. You know what I mean? Just like in the first couple episodes, just to establish that that's the case. That like the Ciri stuff is happening present day. And then if you want to do 30, 40 years ago, whatever,
Yeah, fair enough, for sure.
Yeah. Like
I said, like I can see people getting really confused and thrown off by that initially. So,
but the funny thing about it is that I would think that the first wave of audiences for The Witcher are going to be people who play the games or read the books. That's part of the advantage that the show had that made it a hit before it even was released, was that it's guaranteed that you're going to get the people who play the games and the books to watch it. And that fan base, that fandom it's a vast fandom, because that game in a lot of circles has been considered the game of the decade. Witcher 3. So, you know, there's a solid fan base already there that they took advantage of.
Yeah, they did that really well. I mean,
and
they
I
kind
was
of
telling
catered
Lethal
more
that
to
I
the
got
books
The Witcher 3, so
yeah, exactly. And it's actually like, I don't know if you saw, but there's more people playing the game on Steam now than when it launched.
Than when it launched.
And the books, I've had a hell of a time just finding the books because I went on Amazon to get the they have like a box set of the first 3 after the short stories one, which is the one I have, and it's sold out. And it says temporarily out of stock, and with no indication when they expect to get any in.
Wow. See, yeah.
And Andred said he only wrote a certain number of books under that licensing deal he had. So
that's crazy, man. But no, it just shows you how wide it's gone. Like, I think going forward, you know, which is only going to get bigger and bigger, and this show's really, really helping with that. But I get Ryan what he's saying, you know, and I do agree. Some people might be thrown off by the first few episodes, being confused. But it's one of those things, like, if you stick through it, by the end, it all makes sense. And you're like, wow, that was really good.
There's a payoff coming.
I could see that there's a couple people that, like, in the first 3 episodes may just stop watching if they weren't, like, committed to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do feel the show. Go ahead.
I do feel like the first few episodes before it connects together are just entertaining, you know, on themselves. Like, you just be watching the show, be like, you know, here's a super cut Henry Cavill killing monsters, and here's all these hot chicks with their boobs out. You know, like, I feel people will just be carried along like the first few episodes until the stories connect, just through like a entertainment aspect. And then once it all connects, it's just going to be even better for the person watching it.
And comment because not so much because of the younger actors, but I read an article, I think through Screen Rant, where there was supposed to be a scene with Geralt fighting the monster. You remember the beginning, I think it was episode 4, where Jaskier is taking down the story from the villager, and Geralt comes in and says, you know, I had to kill him from the inside. There was supposed to be a scene where he fights the monster. We were supposed to see it, but they cut it, I think, for time, basically. And it said that they have enough material right now to have 7 seasons.
Wow. That's
great. And if they decide to go you know, in the direction of the games and where the games have gone, and create stories off of that, I mean, who knows how long the show could go, man. I mean, and at the end of the day, as long as they keep the quality, the quality of the first season for me, for a first season show, was top notch. You know, it wasn't perfect, but it was top notch still. And as long as they, you know, just keep with that style, and, you know, it's different, right? Like, it's a different feel than Game of Thrones. It's a different feel than any other, you know, big pop culture TV shows that have been out, especially dealing with fantasy. But it's different. It's different, and it has its own uniqueness, and it's not really trying to emulate anything, you know, from other shows like Game of Thrones, which I personally really appreciated, because the game itself is different than other games, but it's so engrossing and it's story driven, and they stuck with that narrative of that, where they stuck with that style of a story driven show, and it took its time, and I was happy about that.
Yeah, they actually, as I said earlier, you took the time to build the world, so it's not like they just thrust you into the action, like, okay, here's the Witcher, here's Yennefer, here's Ciri, okay, we'll just move on. No, they actually took time to say, okay, here's Yennefer, here's your background, here's why you should care, you know, and Geralt, also, here's why you should care. That came kind of later on in the season, where you find out about, like, about his mother and what happened with him, and then Ciri also, you know, why you should care about her, and this, you know, because you follow her through pretty much the entire season until, you know, the end, where we said it all connects. They all basically, all the stories converge. Now they're at a point where it ends on such like a cliffhanger, in a sense, that I can't wait for season 2, but we're not getting it until 2021. Like, okay, as long as it's quality, I'm like, it drives me nuts, but as long as it's quality, I want them to take their time. I don't want them to rush anything. So
Yeah, true.
Do you think,
Absolutely.
Do you think maybe though, like because of how successful this was, that Netflix were like, yeah, put way more money into this. That's up production. Might be able to speed up the process a little bit more with more money behind it, because this kind of, I don't think anyone was expecting this to be the runaway success that it is.
It could speed up the process. I don't know, but I could definitely see them throwing a bit more money towards it because of how successful it was, that they're going to want to, okay, we can't cut corners for season 2 because now it has such a following, such a fan base now that we're going to have to put the time and effort in. So I would rather they, as I said, just throw more money at it and take their time.
I don't think, but here's the thing with the streaming wars about to heat up with HBO Max coming on. Like they're going to want to do everything they can to make sure this gets out to people. So if that means, I feel like if that means spending a little money up front to hopefully keep all those subscribers once people have to choose, like whether they want Disney Plus or HBO Max or whatever the hell else is going to start coming down the pipeline. Maybe that is something that pushes them to do that. Because I don't know if anyone can afford to be patient right now.
No.
Well, I think that Netflix will throw more money at it, and they will tell the showrunner to take their time. I would rather them keep it at 2021, knowing that they have enough time to rework things if they feel like they need to rework something, and to just kind of go over it, a couple of times to make sure that they've gotten all their T's crossed and I's dotted. And at the end of the day, Netflix still is the primary streaming service, period. And it will be that way for the foreseeable future, because if you're paying attention to what's happening at Disney Plus, they're losing tons of subscribers post The Mandalorian. So a lot of people subscribe.
I feel really bad for them too.
Yeah, really. A lot of people subscribe. They got 10 million people subscribe for The Mandalorian, and they probably had 3 or 4 million unsubscribe as soon as the last episode was done. Netflix doesn't have that problem. Netflix has so many brands, so many franchises within their their bubble that they don't have to worry about that. I mean, they lost a little bit when Disney Plus started, but obviously they're probably getting that back because of The Witcher. So
I'll tell you right now, and you know this, Uche, but I haven't had Netflix for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and then I saw Witcher was out. I looked on the pirate sites, couldn't find it because it had just dropped, and I couldn't find it, so I said, screw it, sign me back up to Netflix, and I'm still on there.
And I tell you what, Mandalorian, didn't sign up for Disney Plus, found every episode pirated within 30 to 45 minutes of the show actually dropping the episode. So Netflix has their things together, apparently.
I have Disney Plus, but I took advantage of the Verizon deal. So
yeah,
that year free.
Yeah.
I sure as shit ain't gonna have it when next fall comes around, because that's what they're doing. They're waiting till after that 1 year where people are using that Verizon thing to drop the next season of Mandalorian, so they have everybody paying for it this time.
Pretty much, yeah. I can see they're going to do that.
Yeah,
I think Netflix is safe. I think that a lot of people were concerned about Disney Plus. I think they have a bigger concern from HBO Max than
HBO Max has more subscribers.
Yeah,
HBO Max has more subscribers than way more subscribers than this Apple TV and Disney Plus and all that crap. That's what you have to look out for. And then you look at Amazon Prime. I think they're the ones doing the Lord of the Rings one, right?
Yeah, Amazon Prime is doing the Lord of the Rings. Yeah,
they've got a lot of money wrapped up in that. That still needs to take off the ground or take off. But Netflix has that $500 million wrapped up in Dan and Dave. How stupid was that?
They just got $3 billion more funding, so they don't even care. they have an entire a 5-year slate paid for already. So
good on them. I mean, they've just been around for so long. Like the way I see it, Netflix kind of started this whole streaming stuff. You people had Netflix. What do you mean, you people? You people had Netflix way longer than us. I remember when Netflix came out here, it was this big deal, and you guys had already had it for years. You're yeah, whatever, man.
Well, it evolved. You know what I mean? It wasn't streaming to start. It was I guess was it streaming? I thought it was like rentals. It was rentals.
They sent DVDs to your house.
Yeah, it evolved
That's
to
how it
streaming.
started.
So they did actually create that streaming concept.
Yeah. Most of what I watch is through streaming at this point.
I can remember being at a Blockbuster. That's it. I can remember being at a Blockbuster and thinking, "Man, this will always be here." It's not
Blockbuster. Nope. I used to love going to Blockbuster on like a Friday and just walking up and down the aisles and looking at all the different movies. And then the next thing you know, it doesn't even exist anymore. There's one in like Alaska. That's it.
It's like one.
How do you think that Netflix, like, because you know how Netflix, they just released the whole season at once. Do you think that worked well for Witcher, or would you prefer weekly releases?
It did. It passed The Mandalorian in viewership
it's because it has like 10 times the amount of subscribers that The Mandalorian has. There is no doubt in my mind that if they went with weekly releases, they could have kept up this feeling for Witcher for 8 weeks.
I think that look what it's done with them dropping the entire season. The video game is more popular than it's ever been.
That's crazy, considering it's the game of the decade.
And the game itself is considered the game of the decade by many gaming outlets, and that has just bolstered the entire IP. And the CD Projekt Red is dropping Cyberpunk 2077, and there's supposed to be a cameo by Ciri in Cyberpunk because she actually visited the Cyberpunk universe from Witcher 3, and that is going to keep them going.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of see both points.
That's like, all right, that's like saying because The Rise of Skywalker, when it gets to $1 billion, saying that that's the best that it could have done. Just because it makes a shit ton of money doesn't mean it shouldn't have made 2. And I think that's what we have with The Witcher. We have something that's extremely successful. But if you would have had weekly releases and strung this along, have us doing live stream reactions every single week when every episode of Witcher drops, all that free advertising they could have had to keep that momentum going.
I mean that's a fair point.
That's a fair point.
So really, pros and cons to both, and we're at the point where they just released it all at once. And I think that's basically Netflix's approach at this point.
That's their thing. I mean, can you imagine, for as much as we talk about them doing week-to-week releases, had they done that, you know what kind of uproar they would have had from Netflix faithful? People would have been up in arms, like, we want to binge. Binging is like a thing. That's a thing.
Pretty much.
Also, I've got a question for Ryan in regards to the weekly release. On the subject of, you get to like episode 4, and that's when it really starts to be like, wait a minute, what's going on with the timelines? Okay, so episode 4 ends, and you're like, what's going on here? I thought these characters were already dead. What's up with that? And then you got to wait a week to find out what's going on. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it would depend on the person, but I think that, kind of like I said, the same people that are going to get confused enough to stop watching would stop watching. Like
Entertainment Weekly, fucking bastards. Like that's so that's unbelievably unprofessional for one, and they admitted it to actually go out and say we didn't watch it and it's terrible. We give it an F. I mean, your credibility as a journalist, whoever did, I don't remember the names of the journalists. Both of their credibility is shot to hell for that. They should. I mean, if I'm the people running Entertainment Weekly, they're taking a 6-month hiatus or they're fired because that's damaging what they did. And it's clear that it's not the case because the show is the most popular show on any streaming service. So.
I think we kind of maybe start getting into the show. Like with the first episode, I know you guys before YouTube and all. We won't go into what they did.
Yeah.
But where he gets his nickname, the Butcher of Blaviken, which is I loved that part. That part is in the book I'm reading, and as I said, I loved how the author was able to take elements of the Snow White fairy tale. Modify them and fit it into the world he was building, and it makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's the best choreographed fight scene. I mean, I've only watched the first 6. I haven't seen the 7 or 8, but that's the best choreographed fight scene in my opinion in the series so far is that one in the first episode.
You can tell there was a lot put into it.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the best fights in the whole show, really.
Yeah,
it's just like one of the things that like kind of drives me nuts with like this kind of fantasy stories is when you see people with swords like slashing through like steel plate armor or something like that, which we do have a little bit in like episode, was that 4 maybe? That kind of irritates me when you see that. It kind of takes me out of it for a second because it's not realistic. But there was none of that because it was just dudes fighting. You had some people with leather armor, but everything that was leather armor was pierced, which is how it's intended to be, because it doesn't protect against that really. So I really enjoyed that fight, and Cavill was just an absolute monster.
Yeah, I thought it was about as amazing an introduction to Geralt and just kind of a homage to the fighting style that, again, is present in the games. And, you see him pirouetting, you see him, just slashing and swiping, and it was great. It was great. I just thought it was a great way to start and set the tone for the series, and I loved it.
Yeah, like towards the start of the episode, he's talking about how everyone, treats him like trash because he just looks completely different and all that. But he knows, he's like, I can kill everyone in this room so easily, man. I'm a Witcher. And then the fight breaks out and he just slaughters them like they never had a chance.
Slaughters them.
Yeah.
Like the way he sticks the sword in the guy's mouth and then just like pivots his sword, like takes off his jaw and all that. And I was like, yep. I actually gave the show to my dad yesterday. And he's one of those people where he's like, oh, can you just show me like, a minute or whatever just so I can see what it's like? And I'm like, here, check this out. And he was like, yep, give me that.
Yeah. And I love how they did not hold back with the violence, because if they were to do that, I don't think it would have worked well with the show, because with his occupation as a Witcher and what he deals with the humans and with the monsters, that there was no way for them to do it, without like the blood CGI and everything like that, and the slaughtering of what's her name, Queen Calante's court in one of the episodes. I mean, they basically her castle's overrun by the Nilfgaard, and like they were not shy of showing everyone getting killed at that point.
Yeah, they like showing necks getting slit. I realized that early. And again, I think it just all pays. It all gathers its the nuances from the source material, the books, the games, and I mean it seems true to all of that to me, and that's what. It does it in its own unique way, and I really, like I said, I was drawn in immediately by it. So,
do we all agree that the Nilfgaardian armor was a bit weird?
It looked kind of like a ball sack.
It looked like a ball sack.
Yeah.
They say that they're getting an upgrade next season.
That's where they probably skimped on the budget.
Uche liked it the black ball sack. So Uche is all about it.
I don't have a problem with black balls,
they got to the point where it's like, oh crap, we're running out of money. Well, like throw together
grab that rag suit over there, put it on.
Yeah, pretty much. But hopefully they do get an upgrade with their armor, because it is odd to look at, and because they're supposed to be menacing, they're supposed to be trying to take over the continent, so to speak, and I can't quite take them seriously with the armor that they picked.
That was actually one of the first things that leaked about this. I remember somebody posted a picture on social media, and it looked terrible.
Yeah, see, that's the thing with this show. Like when it was first announced about 2 years ago, I was like, "Yep, fuck yeah!" My member was elevated. And then the more we found out, I was like, "Okay, yep, whatever. It's more based on the books. I think that's a good decision." But then all these little things started to come out, like the Nilfgaardian armor, and then it got to like the quote unquote race swapping stuff, and I was like, fuck, here we go.
It was more to me the stuff that all like the showrunners and everyone that was working on it like had in their Twitter bios, and like you remember that story going around?
Yeah, I do. I do remember that, but at the same time, my counter to that was the actual chick's name. I can't remember it for the life of me.
Lauren Kiss.
That's her. That's her. That's her. Yep. She was getting a bit of flack for that stuff, and then she put out this tweet thread where she was like, "Yes, I believe in blah 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 blah." The type of stuff that would normally make you think, "Fuck, here we go." but then she followed it up with, "But basically she said like my personal crap shouldn't affect the story that's already been told. If I let it do that, it's gonna alter the quality of the final product, and that would make me a failure. So I'm not going to do that." And when she put that out, I was like, "Yep, you have my support 100%." And then we got like they showed the pictures of who they were going to have play Fringilla, and I was like, "Nah." Fringilla and Triss, in my opinion, are the only two characters that I wasn't entirely sold on. But with Triss, I will argue with Triss, it's because she wasn't really in the show, so I can't really judge her a whole lot. Fringilla, again, she just needed a little bit more to work with. But looking at her, like, there's no way you would know that was Fringilla unless you're told. But apart from that, everyone that's crying this show is woke. It's just a fucking snowflake.
Yeah, it's not woke. It's not woke. Like, if you know anything about the books or the games, you know that for the essence of it, it's following along what the source material is provided.
Yeah, and as opposed to many other things, when with the race swapping of Fringilla, they don't make a big deal about it. It's just, here she is, whatever.
Yeah. Like, that's like would have been my issue. Like, I do, to a degree would prefer them to sort of respect how Fringilla looks.
Yeah,
actually,
that's totally fair.
At the same time, it's like they didn't exactly, like what happened with Star Wars and things like that. Well, if you don't like it, you're racist, kind of a situation. Yeah. If you don't like this, then you're a misogynist. They just said, okay, here's who we cast, and they just moved on from that point.
Yeah. And that's the way, if you're gonna do it, you do it unapologetically and you move forward with what you have planned. Like,
and you don't stop and explain it to everyone.
Exactly.
You don't just shove it down people's throats.
And then you don't attack people who you want to watch the show.
Yeah.
And that's, obviously, as we all know, that's a problem with Star Wars. But on this end, a lot of people were kind of gearing up for that based on, like you talked about, Lethal, the things that were coming out early. And she made the absolute perfect move in just expressing that her personal beliefs are not going to affect her work. And that's the way that and you got to commend that in my eyes. And her name is Lauren Hissrich.
Hissrich. Like, I think the best example would be Yennefer, right? When Yennefer was cast, we looked at her and she was like, okay, she's hot. Okay, we can tick that. That's the Yennefer box. She's mixed race. Okay, what's going on with that? Yennefer's supposed to be pretty pale. But then, when we see her performance in the show, you're like, you 100% picked the right person. It's almost like you picked someone based on their skills. Like, you got the right person for the job. What a crazy concept. She just happens to be a little bit darker than what we were expecting. That ain't woke. If you think that's woke, you're a bitch.
So I can see, she definitely is mixed race, and Yennefer is supposed to be on the paler side, but I can only speak personally that technically I'm mixed race because I'm European and Middle Eastern and Native American descent, but I look
white.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have guessed just white.
Yeah, I agree.
I would.
You got a little. She looks like she has a little flavor to her.
Thank you. I'll take that. But some people, if you were to compare me to my sister is darker skin tone, so she definitely has a Middle Eastern side showing through more than I do. So I can accept that. That I could believe that she would be part of that area. And yes, you said, Lethal, that they picked her because she actually did a good job. She was the right person for the role. And how how the story goes with her, even though I didn't agree or like everything that she did or how maybe what she said, I was still invested in her character from just about the moment they introduced her. And we'll go into episode 2 at this point, which focuses on Yennefer and how she even ends up becoming a mage is because she's sold
for less than a pig.
Less than a pig.
Yeah, that was the best part. When they said that, when they established the price for a pig, I was almost positive that it was going to be less for her, and I was so happy when it was.
So,
Mara, you said that there was things like you didn't agree with Yennefer. What were they? Just out of curiosity.
well, like her worldview is kind of twisted if you think about it, because she blames everyone else later on in the season for her not being able to have a child, being able to reproduce. And I'm thinking, well, in a way, yes, but you were asked twice when you went in to have the artist work on you. Do you want to do this? You like you know what's at stake. That was her choice, but she still blames everyone else for the choice that she made.
She blames her mixed race boyfriend.
Yeah, like she blames everyone else, but she made the choice to have it done.
Yep, I agree with that. You know, she knew what she wanted and she knew the price. But when the uterus fell out, I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that, a steak?
I wasn't quite sure what was going on because I like turned my head. I was like talking to one of my kids or something. I just looked back and just like she's just out there with her tits out and her uterus on the ground. Like,
yeah,
what the hell's going on?
like I don't want to. Even I'm a woman. I'm like, no, I don't want to think about that. But like, just like little thing, like just that. You know, that's where I said I agree with everything that she says or does. But that's a minor nitpick at this point, really. It's because I'm invested in her character. I want, based on how episode 8 ended, and where she basically unleashes all her power, I want to see where she goes from that point on.
The Dead and the Damned, he has a good response to it, if you want to highlight that.
Right here?
Yep.
Yeah, she's a flawed character, and that's what makes her interesting, in my humble opinion. Yeah. I don't want perfect characters, and like the fact that even Geralt himself is not perfect makes them far more empathetic. You know, Ciri is not perfect if you think about it, because she's finding out what her grandmother's actually done. And she lived a sheltered life for the entire 12 years of her upbringing, and when she's forced to flee because of the Nilfgaard invasion, then she is finding out your grandmother is not the person you thought she was.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good part of her arc, was that she kind of became a fish out of water, and she was living a privileged life, and now she was amongst the commoners, and it was a shock to her system. Yeah. And to find out that her grandmother was, a warlord, basically, and that the people that she thought were her friends among the commoners really were only appeasing her because of her royal, her royal bloodline. So
they were ready.
That was really good.
They were ready. When they found her, they were ready to capture her and turn her in for money. Like, they had no qualms with that. Like, didn't matter to them that they played together as children.
Yeah.
It's The Witcher. It's dog eat dog.
Dog eat dog. And they were pretty spot on with how they, portrayed everybody's flaws, everybody's misconceptions, Geralt's lack of faith in destiny, and how that came back and bit him right in the ass immediately. And all he could do was say, fuck.
I love the way he says fuck.
Yeah, love that. That was just perfectly timed. When he's like, okay, fine, I'll do the law of surprise. And then Pavetta throws up and it's, are you pregnant? And he's like, fuck.
As soon as he threw up, I was like, wow. Destiny was like, here you go. Right now.
That's what I love about Destiny. If there's a comparison I would make to it, is from classical literature, The Mask of the Red Death, where these rich people try to cheat death by holding a party and staying within their castle. Like, Destiny, for me, works like that in this show, where it's like, nope, you cannot escape me. I'm going to find you. Like, where Calante tries to cheat Geralt from his law of surprise, and people
is that in episode 7? I think it is, because that's how it basically started out.
So, and people are like, you don't want to go cheat Destiny. Destiny destiny will find a way, and basically without saying karma is a bitch. That's what people were trying to tell, Calanthe and everyone. And choices you make are going to come back to haunt you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Destiny is the ultimate hold my beer person.
Pretty much. Season. Pretty much.
What Destiny? Hold my beer. Pregnant.
Me and Uche discussed this, but I've come to the conclusion that Jaskier is the best character of the entire show. He is the bro.
Stole every scene he was in. I want to get into it a little bit more detail with the party scene, because that's in episode 4, I believe. Yeah. But I want to ask you guys, what did you think about this? You guys started talking about it in Uche's live stream, but the Striga episode.
I loved it. The Striga episode was one of my favorites, actually. I mean, I just love the whole concept of this whole episode is because he can't afford the room that he's having sex with the hooker in. So he's like, shit, I have to go kill monsters, because that episode never would have happened if he kept his pants on. That's never would have happened.
Or if he had, left like 3 days earlier or whatever. If he'd stopped boning like a little bit earlier, he could have afforded the room and the woman instead of just the woman.
I love when he's leaving and he has to leave his horse.
He has
to leave his horse.
Collateral.
And he asks the innkeeper, point me the way to Temeria, and the innkeeper decides to mouth off to Geralt.
Like, you don't scare me.
Yeah,
with that bag.
All Geralt just does is walk up to him, tower over him, and says, point me to Temeria. And the guy just pisses his pants and points.
Oh yeah, that's
to
right.
Temeria.
I just love it when he walks out. He looks at Roach, the horse, and he's like, "Come on, man, don't judge me."
Yeah.
Roach is like, "What the hell?"
Yo, Roach lived a long ass time. That was one of the questions I had. How long does Roach live?
Man, Roach is in him. Roach is with every horse he has. He names Roach. So it's not that it's one horse.
Yeah.
That's just what he names his horse. Whatever.
It seems to be the same horse. That's why I ask.
He always goes for one that looks the same. Geralt of Rivia isn't even his name, and he's not even from Rivia. When you become a Witcher, you got to take a new name. And he's like, "Yep, Geralt of Rivia." He's like, "You've never been to Rivia, man." He's like, "But it sounds cool."
Yeah.
So that's all that is, really. But no, I love the Striga episode. One of my favorites, actually, because episode 1, I was like, "Yeah, this is great." Episode 2, I thought was a step down for episode 1, personally. But then episode 3 came in, and I was like, "Yep, this is the bomb diggity." I loved it. When the way they introduced Triss, who I know wasn't there in the book, but I feel it was a great way to introduce her as well. I just love the way they had that dude tied up to the bed sheets and all that. Even the way that Geralt confronts him when he walks up to him and he's like, "I can smell what was on those bed sheets, you sick fuck." And the way he locks out the guards and talks to the king, just the way he actually talks to the king, not aggressive or nothing. It's just "I know you're lying. I've been doing this for a long time, man. And that's not how these things work."
Yeah, he picks up tells very easily, where he's like, the mention of the mother, I saw you react. The mention of the father, you look down. And you're keeping something from me.
One thing you got to remember about witches is at the end of the day, they're tradesmen. It's just killing monsters is their trade.
Monsters and money. That's all life.
Money, slay monsters, acquire cheap women. That's the life of a witcher.
Bitches get money.
But Geralt, I love that he has a code to him where, going from this episode to episode 4, where Queen, the Queen wants him to kill the knight who comes in and claims the law of surprise.
Rooney, I think his name was.
No, I'm not going to kill him because he's not a monster. He's obviously cursed.
And I think did she know that? Did she know he would be there? That he would come?
Well, yes, because in the book, she reveals that her husband on her deathbed revealed that to her. So she knew the guy would be coming eventually. And in the book, it's actually sort of a subtle. It's she subtly invites Geralt. So it's not just hey, we're going to a party. How the episode sets it up, she gets him there with the purpose, knowing that that guy was going to show up.
Yeah.
And then she was going to use Geralt to kill him. And Geralt basically goes, "No, I'm not your hired muscle. I'm people for money, or creatures for money. and he's saying, this guy's cursed, and that's when the whole fight breaks out. I'm
not your subject. I think I'm not your subject is what he said, something like that.
Yeah. But this is what he tells her in the book. It's like, I'm not you cannot order me around.
Yeah, I find it very interesting that that Geralt he operates outside of society, but he lives among them. But he really, his code, his upbringing is all from the outside. Because obviously with the trial of the grasses, all his mutations, he doesn't fit in to society, but he's needed in society. So he has to live among them, has to work among them, and receive their ridicule every time he shows his face in a town. But yeah, she made that assumption that he would just kill for money because that's their reputation, that they're not going to do anything unless you pay them. And this is not that kind of Witcher. This Witcher has got a code that he sticks to.
Yeah, because there's when does he meet Jaskier? Was that in?
He met Jaskier in the past, like in the. I think it was. It had to have been at least a decade before he ran into Yennefer. They've been boyfriends.
Which episode was that?
2, I reckon.
2?
Yeah, 2.
Because there's a part in that we kind of glossed over too, because it does focus on Yennefer. And maybe we'll get back into talking about her when we go more in depth with her character. But where he meets Jaskier, and they find that what's that creature? Oh, I'm blanking.
They called it the devil. Yeah, they called it the devil. It was
looks like the goat kind of.
Yeah, but
head.
Geralt was just going to basically, I don't want to say beat him up, but let him go. Just say don't come back to this area, kind of a deal.
Stop stealing from these people.
Yeah, and then he was tied up by the elves and things like that, and I love how also that the elves got respect, developed respect for Geralt, because Geralt was like, okay, this is my destiny at this point. Go ahead. I don't.
Don't call me human.
Yeah, you have a knife to my throat, so go ahead, kind of a situation. And saying and telling the Elf King, if you really want to help your people, build yourself back up. He doesn't
go find somewhere else to live and start over.
Start over. Build yourself back up. Don't stay here. Don't live off. Send out this creature to steal food for you. Because Geralt conceivably could have gotten free and slaughtered the elves if he wanted.
Yeah, I was thinking that while watching it, he could have used Igni while he was tied up.
Or he could have used which one is the Jedi mind trick?
Axie.
Axie.
Yeah,
he could have used Axie.
I couldn't remember. Yes, thank you. It was a Sylvan.
Sylvan, yeah.
And from memory, I think he only uses Axie once in the entire show, right?
He tried to use it on Renfrey and it didn't work.
I didn't see it any other time. Yeah.
Yeah, she was immune to magic, and that's also where you see we're going to be jumping around with characters, but where you see Stregobor is a world-class dick.
Yeah,
he is,
and it's further emphasized in the interactions with the what are they called, the Brotherhood, or something, where they're talking about where they're going to send the mages.
Yeah,
and he uses his influence to alter where Yennefer goes, which prompts her to take matters into her own hands at that point.
Into her own perfectly proportioned tits.
So I want to see even where they take his character, because he's kind of like a snake in the grass in this season.
He's going to die a violent death.
Yeah.
Oz has a good comment. He says Geralt basically inspired the storytell in episode 2, which is the elf rebellion, running around out there. So he's got a good point.
The story in episode 4 at the party.
Yeah, I love that part where he's like, no, actually, they kicked my ass.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Really, truly, episode 4 is where you truly get the understanding of where everything fits time-wise, I think. For any questions you had before, at least.
And this goes back to Jaskier. One of my favorite parts in the entire season is where this husband thinks he recognizes Jaskier, because Jaskier is kind of he's basically a gigolo or a man whore in the court.
He's a lady boy, but he's a ladies'
I
man
didn't
somehow.
see the guy's face, but I saw his ass as he was leaving, so I want you to drop trouser here.
Remember that? Yeah.
And so to save Jaskier, Geralt walks up and says, well, it couldn't be him because he was kicked in the balls by a donkey.
When he was a child.
He's a eunuch. He's like,
Got him paid, too.
You see the look on Jaskier's face where he doesn't want to lose his reputation, so he's fighting with himself to stop denying what Geralt is saying. So he's like, do I lose my reputation in the courts, or do I keep my life? Or
no, he's caught up in this weird situation.
My life kind of situation. So it's like he's like mentally fighting with himself until finally he breaks down and says, "Yeah, I'm a eunuch."
Does he get his throat slit now and then, or does he, risk getting more ladies? The choice is good. And it's like, the whole reason he brought Geralt there was to be a bodyguard. It's like, you could have just beaten him up for me or something like that. Nope. You gotta tell him I don't have a penis. Episode 4, I think, was great. I loved episode 4.
Yeah,
well.
that's where we introduced to that law of surprise, which plays into the later on in the season. It's like that's where you find out that this episode is where you find out why Calanthe sends Ciri to go find him. So you're wondering at the beginning of the season, like what connection does this queen have with Geralt? And then you find out in season 4, that he, as a basically smart ass comment, like you point out, Uche, Destiny's like, hey, you're knocked up. Guess what you get?
Hold my beer.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a surprise, and that's his connection to Ciri, and that's where you're following her throughout the season, wondering when she's going to find him. As it jumps back and forth early on in the season, and then it starts becoming one streamlined timeline.
Careful. Somebody hasn't seen the last episode.
No, you're good. I know. I don't. This is a spoiler stream, so don't.
Okay, so you
don't. No, I don't care at all. It's my own fault.
But and Calanthe tries to cheat Destiny, and part of me can kind of understand because she's coming from as a grandmother and a grieving mother. So you find out that she blames Geralt as a result because he saved what's his name, Dooney. That's what Vada called him, and they wed and everything, and she blames Geralt for what happened to her daughter. Now Ciri's the only blood relatives that she has, so part of me can kind of see why she would choose to go against Destiny, but then the same time, it's like, well, maybe if you hadn't, maybe your castle wouldn't have been overrun.
Yeah, you got a point. You got a point, man. Nathan says, "Get your ass in gear, Ryan."
I'm sorry. I'm doing other shit.
Oh, he's kicked in the balls by an ox. Yeah, so
I don't really remember much of Yennefer in episode 4.
They didn't show much of her. Her focus was really in episode 2, and then you see, her transformation and her what she deals with a little bit through episode 3 and 4, but then you really catch up to her and watch her life so far in episode 5.
Is that the one with the dead baby?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the Yoda moment I wanted.
That was great. I love the way she leaves the queen, that royal chick behind. It's just fuck you then.
Yeah,
be a bitch.
The queen starts acting like a bitch, and Yennefer's trying to save her ass, and she's like okay, fuck you, and takes her and goes.
Be back in 10.
Yeah,
bye.
And just leaves her to get eaten by that thing. Yeah, that was good, that episode. Lots of slaughtering in that one. But when the baby died, that kind of kickstarted the whole, why that she wants to have a child and all that. Honestly, one of my favorite things about the show was the relationship between Geralt and Yennefer. I thought it was great. I said this to Uche on his stream, that I love that part where the episode with the dragons, where Geralt's talking to Yennefer and he accidentally slips up that he made the wish. And as he's talking, he says it and he's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the fuck. Like he says it. He said it at least 4 times or so when just something goes wrong. Like in episode 3, in episode 4. I'm pretty sure in episode 1.
Pretty much.
And it's perfect timing each time he says it. It's like, yeah fuck, you're right.
Like when the Striga gets up.
Yeah, exactly. When it breaks out of the chain, right? I think that's it. Like when he wraps it all up in the chain and the chain's burning and everything, and then he just shatters it. He's like, fuck.
Yeah, he's great at that. He is great at that. But just like him and Yennefer, like every time they're on screen together, it's like, yep, this is awesome. Like I really buy their relationship. But it also adds to Jaskier, in my opinion, because Jaskier does not like the fact that this random girl is coming along and playing with his boy's heart. It's just not cool.
Bros over hoes, bro.
I think it's the start of it, how he does not like Yennefer.
He shouldn't.
I think it has more to do with the fact that she was like his first interaction with her was where she was trying to capture the djinn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Geralt just goes back in there.
I like how
he's
like
it's like you're messing
beautiful,
with my boy.
but, insane witch to her own device.
And like in every episode he's in, Jaskier, he's always trying to get with someone. Like the two black chicks that are with that guy on the dragon episode, the guy that ends up being the dragon. He spends that whole episode making slight jabs towards Yennefer. Because you're messing with my boy's heart, don't like you. Yeah. While at the same time trying to like organize a freeway, an international freeway. It's like I think we all relate to Jaskier.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bang every girl in the room, but this one, I don't like her, man. You leave my bro alone.
Yeah, and that's we're as I said, like we're basically reintroduced to Yennefer just about at that point, and I like how she's sort of earning her keep by
No, she's not. She's having a rebound. She's having a rebound because she spent 2 episodes ago. She got with Geralt, and they obviously love each other.
No,
she's
I'm
having a rebound.
episode 5 where we meet her again, and she's basically like to earn money. She's doing not spells, but like helping couples and things like that. And
that's right.
We have
erectile dysfunction.
Yeah. And part of the reason why I love that episode is because like the mayor comes in with his hired muscle or whatever you want to call him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he thinks he's basically the shit of the town and he's like going to lock her up or something. But the next time you see her, she's taken over his house and all these people in it.
That's what women do, man. You give them an inch, they take a mile.
But when I was saying like he comes in like all big and bad, and he's like, it's okay. You want to take me there? Oh, fine. And she takes over his house, pretty much. So Geralt walks into this orgy going on, but he has to save Jaskier from the djinn.
Yeah, good old Yennefer. She's in there like all like dominatrix style. Organized her orgy and all that sort of stuff. What a lass! What a lass! I feel like anyone in her position would do the same thing.
What did she mean? So was she trying to put Geralt under the same like spell or whatever that the other dude was under, like the dude that was in there before? Because I thought it was strange because it was like, she does put him under a spell later, but she says you're immune at that point. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. For you, lethal.
All right. Maybe if lightning had more than an inch to give a woman, she wouldn't need to take a mile.
Damn, that's kind of what I was thinking too. I couldn't find a good way to word it, but that was good. I like that.
Wrecked.
Yeah, I think he does. I'd possibly try something on him but it doesn't work with him. And he's
doesn't she say like she's never met a witcher before? So she'll I'll add you to my orgy pile of people over here. Sure, why not?
Yeah, and like. There's a line where he's like, I thought you would have horns and fangs, and he says, I filed them down, kind of situation.
Yeah.
Where it's like interaction with the Witcher.
Yeah. No.
If he didn't have to get his horse back, he probably would have stayed for the orgy.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we all knew what he was thinking when he walked in.
You could see in his face he was tempted. 'Cause he was
Yeah, no, that was really good, that part as well. That whole episode was really good, the whole Jin episode.
and when
the way he argues with
coming
Jaskier.
down after, like, she's trying to trap the Jin because she wants to produce a baby so badly.
Yep.
And the house comes down around them, and Jin leaves situation, and Jaskier thinks like they can't possibly be alive.
Yeah.
Yep.
And another character that we didn't mention, this elf that helped Jaskier earlier on, like walks up to the window and he like sees what's happening in there.
And what's happening in there, Mara? Tell us what's happening in there.
Hey, he didn't partake in the orgy, so he started heels to Jesus by him with Yennefer. And
they're making babies.
Yeah. The guy walks up and
impotence.
The guy walks up, looks in, then walks back, and he's like, "They're all right."
They're better than all right.
They're really alive.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, who is that weird elf? He like seemed. Is that someone from the like an important character?
I haven't read the books. I don't know. He seems like just that they had to. They saw him initially, but he couldn't help Jaskier. Jaskier needed a mage's help at that point, and he just happened to know Yennefer was in the town nearby.
Side quest character.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just seemed like important. Like he had like a lot of investment in them fucking for some reason. It's just weird.
Hey man,
side quest character.
Like revealed in the jail cell that he has feelings for Yennefer. So
that's
right. Oh, poor lad.
Yeah, so
but it was because of her spell, though, right? She
you don't know that. You don't know that. It's that he has feelings for her, so we don't know if it's part of her spell or not. It's never really indicated.
I think we need Ryan to read this message.
Yeah.
Lethal is sexy.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you, DJD, and thank you, Ryan. There we go.
You're welcome.
I knew you had feelings. Is this also the same episode where Yennefer and Geralt have that bath together, and like she like does the magic with the mirror, so he can't see her reflection because he's looking in the mirror like, oh, let's get a look at that. What's going on there?
He's like,
yeah. Well, that was I was trying to sneak a peek. So
what a lad. I mean, we all would have done that. And the way she like turns it off, and you see like the disappointment in his eyes, like,
yeah,
kind of wanted to see that, man. Great stuff.
Oh yeah.
So many moments in the series that there are moments that kind of fit organically in the flow of that that scene, and they stick with you, like all the Geralt saying fuck moments, like it just fit right in there. It's not something that you necessarily see coming, but when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, perfect.
Just you might be interested in this, but there's a 3-minute cut on YouTube of every and fuck.
I didn't watch it, I saw that in my recommendation, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to watch that at some point.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good. It also has the best kiss scene of 2019,
which is in the next episode. We brought up where Jaskier is trying to hit on the 2 black women bodyguards for the guy who recruits them.
What a lad.
To
dragon, man.
To go after the dragon.
Yeah.
And I love how in that episode it goes back to Geralt's moral code, and that is he won't kill every monster because not all monsters are evil, and you see that in this episode. And I love when Jaskier asks the 2 women, like, why are you with this old guy? Basically, the gist of his question to them, and they're like, because he's beautiful. And the look on Jaskier's face,
hating,
hating, jealous. 2 things that I loved about this episode was at the start, Geralt says golden dragons aren't real, and then at the end he's proven wrong.
Yep.
And throughout pretty much the start of the episode, he's just turning down the offer. He's like, nope, not interested. And then Yennefer walks in, and he's like, we're doing it.
Yeah, pretty much. She walks in with her
Fine, I'm in.
rebound knights. Because
that
she wants to go after the dragon for her own purposes.
She's got one of those Harry Potter tents.
I know.
That just looks like crap on the outside. It's nice and roomy on the inside.
That rebound boyfriend that she has. Wow. What a wanker.
What a douche.
It was so funny when he went up and killed. I actually laughed at that part where Geralt's just like, it's just hungry. And he just like starts hacking it.
He comes out of left field and just starts hacking it.
Yeah.
I was offended. I was offended because they're basically making the knight out to be a dumb jock. and I ain't no dumb jock.
And then the way he eats it, and they're all telling him like, "Dude, don't eat that, man."
Yeah.
And then it destroys his back hole.
It does. And then
who killed? Do you just assume it's one of the nerder or one of the reavers or whatever they call them that killed him?
Yeah, like it's heavily implied. It's the can't remember the guy's name, but the one who acts like a dick around the fire. It's heavily implied that he's the one who did it. With that, like they didn't exactly state it. And I love like Jaskier's reaction to like they find the knight, dead. As he was going to the bathroom, and he's like, I don't care like what you've done. That's like no way to die, kind of a situation.
Who kills a man when he's emptying his bowels? That was hilarious.
And it ties, again, you're like Destiny, hold my beer, and karma, where it's the knight did that, and I'm like, okay, I have a feeling at the next scene or two, you're not going to be around anymore.
Just don't kill a man when he's emptying his bowels. You just don't do it. It's not on. It's not on. And I really like the part with the dwarves take them on the shortcut, and they got to walk along that really narrow path.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I'll be honest. If that was me and we got there, I would have said nope straight away.
I would have turned around.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that was made for dwarfs.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm regular size human.
You would have tried to, and then Yennefer would have shoved your bitch ass right back.
Jaskier's like, ladies first, and Yennefer just kind of like pushes him.
Yeah, I almost shoves him off the edge.
They would have heard a lot of screaming. They would have heard a lot of feminine screaming if they pushed me onto that bridge. Triggered!
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it. It was too much. But that episode also had a really good fight scene at the end as well. Mm-hmm. That was wicked, like when everyone was going hammer and tongs at each other. And this was something I said to Uche, and you might be able to help me out, Mara. Like in the first episode, when Geralt uses Ard, it's like a little tiny push. Mm-hmm. But in this one, it's a massive one that knocks him off the edge. And it seems to me it's because like Yennefer's kissing him, and is it because like she's like pumping magic through into him in a non-sexual way? Because I know that like Witcher Signs is like really basic magic, like it's nothing special. Because we see like the little force push he does, it just like makes him stumble, it doesn't even knock him over. Mm-hmm. But when she's kissing him, I can only assume they're swapping saliva during this process, and there's magic running through him because he does like a massive blast.
That's kind of how I interpreted it.
I mean, not knowing the books and how it all works, I was under the impression that that's what was happening, that she was kind of giving him some of her magic.
She was channeling.
Yeah.
Just like they talked about earlier.
So basically kind of like, he's kind of like the amp that only goes to 10, and she was the one that pushed it to an 11 sort of situation.
I just thought it was for dramatic flair.
Possibly. I mean, like... I
think the reason to kiss in the middle of the battlefield. Like,
it could have been, like, the adrenaline going, and like there was a more powerful push because of the fight itself versus the one that he was at the beginning of the season, where what exactly?
That doesn't make sense.
But I don't know. But like the way it's set up, it looks to be that way, but it's I guess open to interpretation at this point. I can't say for certain that that's what they were intending, but who knows? But
that was just how I thought of it, but I didn't know if that was an actual thing.
I don't think that's how it works in the world. I don't think there's any way for her to do it. But again, I don't want to say they're taking liberties with the season, but they might be adding little things here and there. So it could possibly be that they did do something like that, where they sort of changed the lore a little bit so that she could give him some of her magic. But I'd have to look it up and see. I had to start getting into the books, or like back into the books, and go from there at that point, because I am only going off of the little bit I know at this point.
Well, they added some elements to the show that weren't in the books, if I recall. So some of those things, I mean, you know, we all know that a book and a movie or TV show very hard to transfer over detail for detail. So I think they kind of added it, filled in a couple of gaps that they didn't really know how to transition over.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question for you, Lethal.
Lethal Lightning, are you rocking half? You're rocking half a mongrel, aren't you?
No. Half a normal sized cock. What does that mean?
So what's, by American standards, half of that is like what, 2 centimeters?
I don't know what centimeters are. I don't live in fucking Australia.
Well, I'm Nigerian, and Nigeria is the 11th ranked country in the world as far as penis size flaccid.
What about hard? That's all that matters.
I love how my stream turned into a trivia.
Pushing double.
Here we go. There's got to be a way to settle this, but anyway.
I don't think that means actually penis. What does mongrel mean? Is it a beard, a facial hairstyle?
I think he's implying that Lethal is into hunchbacks or something.
Oh,
I don't know, but you'd have
might be.
he'd have to elaborate a little bit.
It's an Australian thing.
Down under.
Yeah. But
sniffing petrol.
Yeah, they team up with the dwarves in this episode, and then Yennefer and Geralt get together again, and that's like where she finds out, where he lets it slip that he used the last wish. So now she doesn't know or doesn't trust him, because she thinks he used it so they would be together, essentially, or always find each other.
Yeah. So I had a question about the wish thing. Is that what happened to? Is that what happened to? Is that why he couldn't breathe? Is because Geralt said shut up or something? Is that what happened in that? Is that his like wish?
I think so, because it's revealed that we thought that Jaskier, it was granting Jaskier's wishes, but really it was granting Geralt's, and Geralt does say shut up. So the Jinn's like, okay, I'll close off his throat, so you can't.
That's what I thought, and because we didn't get that revealed until like 45 minutes later in the show, I wanted to go rewatch it, but obviously it didn't.
Well, if you paid attention, Ryan, you would have noticed while they were wrestling over the Jinn's bottle, Geralt is the one who actually opened it by pulling the top off.
Right, he holds it, and then Jaskier has the bottle in his hand. Yeah, they basically pull it apart. Yeah,
but Geralt technically opened it because he pulled the top off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he says Geralt wished he'd lose his voice, then got a scratch on his arm. So yeah, like we find out that Geralt was the one.
And the thing with the scratch on the arm was they played it off like it was because he was picking up the pieces of the bottle, but it was really because that's what happens when you get a wish, I guess. So.
And he actually didn't know that until he made his second wish when he was locked up in the jail.
Yeah,
I wish you'd explode, or I wish you'd pop, or something like that.
Yeah. And find out that he was the one, and then so he realizes, crap, I'm going to have to, go get Jaskier out, because he realizes like what Yennefer is up to at that point. Why she's keeping Jaskier where he is, because she thinks the Jinn is being controlled by Jaskier. And that's why she's going through her whole ritual to control the Jinn, and therefore being able to have a baby.
Yeah.
So in episode 6, she's like, "Well, now how can I trust you? Because are we meeting each other? Is it like this fate, or is it because of your wish?"
Yeah, and that's when he gets the fuck.
Yeah, pretty much. And then also he reveals that he has a child surprise, and that's what it's called. At some point in the season, And so she chastises him because he's telling her, well, one of the kind of reasons that they make us sterile is because like this is no life for a child. And she goes, "You're lecturing me on why I shouldn't have a child, and not you have a child that like technically you're supposed to be taken care of, and you're not doing anything because of the law of surprise." And she basically like puts him in his place at that point. Where I can see both sides where he's coming from and saying, yeah, basically this job, as a mage and going from town to town, it's really not a life for a child. But she doesn't see it that way because, like I said, she has a twisted worldview at that point where she blames everyone else.
She's pretty selfish.
Yeah,
which is accurate in the book. I mean, in the games, she is focused on her agenda only, and that's kind of what makes it. It's kind of what creates the divide between her and Geralt in the games. Is that he's like seemingly chasing her all the time because she's always in some kind of drama of her own kind of making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like in a way she creates this drama, and then doesn't take any blame for at least part of creating that drama. But like Lethal said earlier, that one of the reasons he loves this episode is because at the beginning, Geralt says gold dragons don't exist. And then you find out, well, no, they actually do. They're rare, but they do actually exist. Because you find out, basically, spoiler alert, that the old man they were hired by is actually a dragon. Somehow, he's actually a dragon. So I don't know how that magic works.
And he doesn't move his mouth or anything. He just speaks.
Why is he... you must have dropped out.
Yeah, I had a oopsie.
I didn't even notice he was gone.
I didn't. Like, wait a minute, there's 3 on the screen. Why is there only 3? And like basically, so he's wanting. He basically hires them because, in a way, he wants them to protect the egg, not go after the dragon.
Because he'd heard about The Witcher.
Yeah. Because he heard
about his moral code and how he won't just slaughter monsters because that's what they do. He always if there's a way to not kill it, he'll go with that. The one thing that
he has a strict code as far as dragons go as well.
Yeah, that's
he
right.
He sees them as sentient, so he won't kill a dragon.
Yeah.
And they one thing they always go on about in pretty much all of The Witcher is 2 swords, silver for monster, steel for human, but then who's really the monster in this situation? 9 out of 10 times it's the person.
And they kind of alluded to that in the lead up to the release of the show. Was sometimes I can't remember how it went, but it said sometimes the monsters I forget.
Monsters are humans or something.
Yeah, sometimes the monsters, it's the monsters we create that are the worst ones.
Something like that, which is again holds true to the books, because in the books it's basically there are creatures that are genuinely evil, such as the Striga and other creatures, but then it has that gray area where it's like, well, okay, this is a creature, but is it an actual creature? Is it cursed? Is it benign? Is it malignant? It's like, is it harmful? It keeps you in that gray area where it's like sometimes the humans are the worst.
Well, like that one, that the night that Yennefer's dickhead rebound boyfriend knight kills. That thing just comes down it's just hungry. Just give it food and it will leave.
It wasn't attacking them, and Geralt is starting to say, "Feed it, and it'll go away." Pretty much, it's not going to attack us. And then I come in, slaughters the animal, and I'm like, okay, fine, karma's going to get you.
Billy Badass.
It just comes in, look at me, I have sword. It's like, oh my god. And I love the way Yennefer's rolling her eyes constantly, I can't believe I'm sleeping with him.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Pretty much, she's like, yeah, and she rolls her eyes, and she's like, doesn't want to admit that she's with him, but Like she like basically uses him for like her own purposes to get to the dragon at that point. So
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and to kind of make Geralt jealous, which is why our boy Jaskier is right every single time. You're messing with my boy's heart here. I don't like it.
Before hoes.
yeah, that's why like like the episode 5 where he's trying to tell Geralt, leave the crazy witch to her own devices.
Which is a metaphor for life.
Yeah. like the insanely beautiful but crazy witch alone.
Yeah.
Yep. That's not. Yeah, exactly. Jaskier's like, look, man, let's just travel the road, plant our seed everywhere we come across. But she's no good, man. She's getting into your mind.
What I didn't bring up in episode 5 is like where Geralt admits Jaskier is a friend. Because at that point, he doesn't want to admit at all that he actually likes Jaskier.
He says, "Yeah, not gonna let that happen. We'll save you."
Yeah. So, and like he admits, like when he has to save his life, and he's a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
and Geralt is staunchly loyal to his friends. That's one thing, and that's obvious.
Mm-hmm. So like at the beginning when they meet and Geralt is telling him like don't touch Roach because Jaskier only just puts his hand on the horse haunches. He's like don't touch Roach and like okay.
Yeah, you don't do that.
Roach was his only friend at that time.
Yeah. And how even though we don't see it, just the scenes where they're interacting, you can tell that begrudgingly Geralt is admitting to himself that okay, I like this guy.
Yeah. Even though he annoys him sometimes, he's good to have around, and he sings good songs. He got me a theme song.
Yeah, to have a conversation with versus just talking to your horse at that point. So like he might annoy you, but at that point it's like, well, keep talking to Roach or have someone who can actually answer you back at that point. And keeps him company. You said creates that song, which I thought was really good.
Oh, that was the song. That was the song of the holiday.
Yeah.
That's like a motto. That's a quotable thing now. Mm-hmm. Toss a coin to your Witcher.
Yeah. And Jaskier has a serious moment where I can't remember what the situation exactly was, but Geralt is sitting and contemplating basically life and the situations, the episode with the dragon, and I think it was after the old man falls.
Yeah, when they're kind of sitting in the, I think it's like on the mountainside, something like that. Yeah,
and Jaskier sits down and Geralt makes a kind of almost a snide comment, and are you going to start singing or something like that? No. He had a serious moment where there's actual character development with this character. He's not always jovial. He doesn't always have a quip. He's realizing that life is short, and this life that he's on with Geralt, each day could probably be his last because he just saw this man fall to his death.
Yeah.
Along with the two women who are guarding him.
Yeah, a bit of an eye opener.
Yeah. So, and I love that moment between them because it also solidified their friendship. So you do have the banter back and forth, but at the same time, it's okay, they're basically the almost fraternal bonds at that point between them. You see it in that scene.
And also in the game, there is a point where you have to go save save Jaskier. In the game, they call him Dandelion.
In the books, when they translated from the original language into English, his name means dandelion, and so they basically just took that as his name versus actually finding out what his name actually is.
Yeah, so. Well, I remember they said his actual name in the game, but at the time I was like, "What? Dandelion? Can't say that. Can't say the other name." But But they at that point in the game, Geralt hasn't seen him in a very long time. So, he's kind of he's kind of racing against the clock to save him. And when he does save him, there's that kind of reuniting of old friends, and that's the feeling I get with the show, and that's why I love it so much. It just feels organic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like you're basically growing with each character, so it's not like, as I said, Geralt's not perfect, Yennefer's not perfect, and you're going with them on their journeys. So you're with them when they make mistakes, and you're with them when they succeed. And I think that helps with their evolution as characters and how you empathize with them in each episode. And one of the characters we have not really talked about, because much of her arc really is basically just her finding Geralt, and that is Ciri.
Yeah.
Like, she really grows as a character because, as we talked about earlier, she's lived a sheltered life for her 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And being forced to flee, she gets an eye-opener in like multiple situations that, that her grandmother was not the benevolent leader or like, the kind leader that she always thought growing up. Like, her grandmother's actually cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah. She loves war.
And it's just saying what her grandmother did to the elves, because Ciri meets that elf boy named Dara at one point. And like, she's finding out that this is the real world. Like, the life that you lived behind the castle walls is not what's actually going on. And she has her own arc through even just escaping one situation to another, where like the woman that she meets initially, the camp with the displaced people from where she grew up.
Oh yeah.
It just gets wrecked by that dwarf.
Yeah, like how how that woman treated the dwarf who was like waiting on them. Like, I guess he was a servant or something.
Well, he dropped all their pots and pans or whatever. I'd yell at him too.
Yeah.
Quote Arthur Fleck, she got what she fucking deserved in the end.
Like, pretty much, again, it's that I think
was a nasty killing. He just runs up and stabs her.
Well,
Like 8 times.
that was years of abuse, basically. So it's like that was like Ciri's first eye opener, because at that point she thinks, "Oh, I'm among people like my own kind, essentially." And nope, you're not.
It's the Wild West out here.
It's like, like the Nilfgaard come and find them, and Ciri is forced to flee again, and it's like, and like that was the first moment where she's like, I don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
So I think at this point we can say we've learned a few things in the world of The Witcher. 1, you got to find yourself a bard, mate. 2, women just want to take over people's houses and courts and control them and turn them into orgy fields. And 3, chances are you're going to get stabbed by a midget at some stage.
Pretty much.
You're going to get stabbed by something.
And like the elf boy, the Dara, it's like she talks to, and he's telling her about his life, and he's like, I'm the last one left of my family because of your people.
Yeah.
Like,
she's like, well, fuck.
Yeah. So I'm really wanting to see where they take her character, because we didn't exactly interact with her much, but her progression to the point where like she's has her, as we put, like, eyes opened to the world. I'm like, okay, I want to see how Geralt what he does, how he teaches her, because kind of jumping real fast to the last episode, they finally find each other in the last episode.
I think it's the last episode where everything catches up.
Yeah, all the timelines meet in the present at the
7 and 8 is basically like they could probably be like considered almost like 2-part. Because it really flow. So like so they find each other, and now it's how is he going to train her? She's not exactly going to go through the trials of grass.
Yeah, the trials of grasses are only able to be done by men.
Yeah. So
Patriarchy.
pretty much. But she's gonna be with him, but now he's gonna be like, single father almost at this point, and law of surprise.
Do you know what? In The Witcher 3, that was one of my favorite things, was just taking the role of like father figure to Ciri.
Mm-hmm.
Do anything for that little girl.
Yeah, Yennefer and Geralt are basically her adopted parents.
Yeah, the part in The Witcher 3 when Yennefer reunites with Ciri and Yennefer's voice breaks. Oh, love it.
You're such a softie, Lethal.
I teared up too, brother.
I have a heart,
Jesus.
Ryan. That's the only difference between you and me. I have a heart.
I don't want one.
No, you don't. But I guess like now that we're kind of in 7 and 8, it's like Lethal and Nucha. I know that you us three have seen this entire season. What did you think of the progression to the final battle? Essentially,
I loved it. Like, honestly, there's not much in the show that I did not like, to be honest. I'm pretty biased.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all know that it wasn't, it's not perfect, but where it matters, I think it shined. The season shined as bright as you could, with the characters, with the world building. You're pulled into their universe, and you're invested in it because they took their time to build everything around you and to let you, give you a better understanding of the characters. And while the story for some, and for me, I figured pretty quickly that the stories were kind of staggered and not happening around the same time. But it pays off at the end of the season because everything syncs up. Everything starts to make sense. And I mean, it was just great. I mean, I really don't have any complaints. I mean, I understand a couple of the casting complaints, but even with that, those characters that we have those complaints about weren't that big of characters in the season.
Yeah.
They had their scenes, but they weren't essential to the plot moving forward. And
with the exception of maybe Fringilla at the end, only because
Fringilla at the end, yeah, you're right. She was essential for the Nilfgaardian perspective at the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think that this was about as solid a first season as even I think Game of Thrones was, because of the pace being slow to start and then built up gradually, and but still giving you enough information to keep you invested in what's going on. And I mean, that's how I felt with Game of Thrones as well. Just slow start and keep things building, keep filling in the story arcs, and then give us a little action here, give us a little comedy there, give us a little bit of everybody's perspective, and then keep it moving. And I thought it was great. I definitely loved it.
Yeah, and I agree. And like episode 7, Yennefer is basically recruited to go back because they're realizing at that point that Nilfgaard is
breaking away and kind of doing their own thing.
They're not. I don't want to say exactly staying in the south, but at the same time, it's like they're the influence that the mage is supposed to have on them. It's basically obvious at that point that, at least to us, until we find out in episode 8 exactly the extent of Fringilla's role in it, and that she's allowing Nilfgaard to take over the entire continent, and the Brotherhood's like, this can't happen.
She's actually helping. She's like their sleeper cell.
Yeah.
And it's undercutting and undermining the Brotherhood of the mages because I guess throughout the course of the season she hasn't really been in contact with the Brotherhood. She's been doing her own thing with the Nilfgaardians. and helping them further their conquest. So she's being set up as an antagonist of sorts, but also at the same time we haven't seen the king of Nilfgaard yet. So there's probably going to be a lot more dynamic that comes with that. So
yeah, so
no, I agree. I fully agree. But Ryan, how many episodes do you have?
I just started 7, so I just watched the opening scene of 7. That's it. So I got 2 left.
How do you feel? It's probably hard to without the last 2 episodes. But how do you feel it compares to the first season of Game of Thrones?
There's more going on. There's more going on in the first episode of Game of Thrones. That's for sure. I mean, it's tough looking back on Game of Thrones after how good episode or seasons 1 through 5 all are. But I would say that I probably enjoyed this more.
Yep.
I feel like it was a little bit more balanced than Game of Thrones. There was some levity, there was mystery, there was action, and
there's not as many damn characters to keep track of as there's in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. All of the side characters in The Witcher are, they're not throwaway necessarily, but they're not, they have their moments and then they're done.
They serve their purpose, when the story needs them, and but they don't overtake the 3 main characters we're supposed to follow at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would reiterate that Jaskier steals every scene that he's in, so he's probably the only one I would say kind of steals attention away from the main characters. But even then, it doesn't take away from your investment in the Geralt, Yennefer, or Ciri at that point.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah, but each one, as I said, they'll come in, they'll serve whatever purpose is part of the story, whatever purpose their character serves, and then the story is without throwing them to the side, just moves on back to one of the 3 main characters. So it still keeps you invested in the supporting characters, and that's what I enjoyed. They weren't throwaway characters. You still cared about most of them to an extent.
Yeah, even what's his name? The mage that was in Central, Mousetrap.
Mousetrap, yes.
Yeah, Mousetrap. Yeah,
Mousetrap.
You still like this character?
Yeah, he was a memorable character, and honestly, I thought that he was going to, I thought he was going to survive. I thought he was going to continue to be part of the story, and then next thing you know, once Nilfgaard invades, he's done. And I'm like, okay, well, memorable guy, memorable character, and it was cool that him and Geralt even had a friendship in the past, and now he's gone. And okay, let's keep moving.
So, well, I'm not trying to cut this short, but we've been streaming for almost 2 hours, and I think this is something that we could probably talk about for a long time.
Yeah,
that's what I love about this season.
Yeah, I love that show.
Ron finishes it
in this season. It's only 8 episodes, pretty much.
Mara, have you played the games?
No, I did just download Witcher 3, the complete edition on my PS4 because it was on sale. So I have it. And I'm blaming Lethal for this entirely. I'm hooked on Horizon Zero Dawn now.
Oh yeah, I beat Horizon.
So I'm playing that now, and Lethal's basically my drug dealer. He got me hooked, so now I blame him entirely.
That game is ridiculously great.
Yeah,
I
have it.
Since you haven't played it, that game will definitely hold you over until the next season. I mean, the story in the show, you like the story in the show, you'll love how the story is pushed and how it's progressed in the games. It's just as methodical, but it's it's the game of the decade. So hey.
Which I look forward to playing, and I also look forward to getting back into the books because you do have such a long time between now and the season 2, so I should have plenty of time to get into I think it's like 7 books, 6 or 7 books total. I can't remember.
Yeah, 7 books, I think. Yeah.
But anyways, I say like we've been streaming for almost 2 hours, and I had a blast during the stream. So I figure we'll start basically wrapping it up. If Ryan, you want to let people know again where they can find you? I believe I also put links to all your channels in the description. So
Awesome.
people can find you that way. But let them know what your channel's about and everything again as we wrap this up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ryan Kinel, RK Outpost. I mostly talk about Star Wars Expanded Universe stuff, which is vastly superior to the Disney trash that we have going on right now. And also a little bit of comic stuff with DC and Marvel and pretty much anything else that seems interesting. So thanks for having me on, Mara. Jade Shadow. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really enjoyed having you in this conversation, and like maybe we can do something again once you finish 7 and 8, and we can maybe talk about like further in the season. But
she's saying she wants to stream with you again, Ryan. It's kind of cute.
Well,
but that's the first time he's ever heard that from a woman.
You must have missed my New Year's stream, Uche.
Yeah. But anyway, but thank you again, and Uche, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, once again, Uche Waneri, look up my name, and that will be my channel. Now, I mainly I do, hot takes and cover headlines out of the professional football world, as in the NFL, not that European stuff they call soccer. And on the weekends, I actually dedicate my weekends more to geek culture. I last week was the first week of my weekend geek pod or live stream, and I mean we all know how that went, but there will be another one. Yeah, you shut your mouth over there.
Can only go up from there.
Yeah, so we're starting over again tomorrow, so look out for the weekend geek live stream, and I'll be damned if they stop us this time.
Yeah, that was basically a total bitch move by YouTube, and there I said it on YouTube. That was a bitch move on their parts.
Oh,
it was like someone with a power trip. It was like who had their finger over the off button for your stream, basically. So
yeah, and why won't they respond to my appeal? I mean,
they don't respond unless you've got 100K. Then you get your like person you actually get to talk to. At least it takes a really long time for them to respond to stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, but thank you for being on, and again, our token Australian representation on this panel. People, let them know where they can find you now that I've released you from my dungeon, apparently from the last stream. That's
that's right. Yeah, that's right. That was a fun time. You'll find me at every corner, yelling from the top of my lungs, "Release the Snyder Cut!" Wherever there is anyone, anywhere, saying anything, I'll be there telling them to release the Snyder Cut. And
yeah,
Mia is so
JJ cut. F this JJ cuts.
JJ cut. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Sure, why not? But make no mistake, release the JJ cut is a fucking footstool for release the Snyder Cut.
Exactly.
I have my own thoughts when it comes to that, but this is not the stream for that. And I don't know, but everyone calling for the release of his cut, I'm like, remember, this is the guy that pissed off the Star Trek fans. So, is his cut better? I don't know.
Disney didn't think so.
I don't know. Are they capable of doing what the Reddit leaks claim they are? Yes, they're greedy bastards. But remember, like how Trek fans feel about JJ and what he did to the Star Trek universe. So it's like, is his cut actually better?
Release the Snyder Cut. Towers.
Yeah.
Towers in dominance.
Like, we have like
superiority over release the JJ cut. Tell me, Mara, how much money has raised the JJ cut raised for suicide prevention? Huh? How many directors have come out?
Less than $110,000.
Less than $110,000. How many mainstream, big time Hollywood people have come out and voiced their support for release the JJ cut? You tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, where JJ cut ranks next to the glorious, supreme, dominant Chad release the Snyder cut. We started this shit, and don't forget that. 2 years
right.
strong, release the Snyder Cut.
That's right.
Yeah.
You fuckers come in with your release the JJ Cut, thinking you got Hollywood on lock.
That's only gonna trend for that one day. It's not trending after that.
No.
You got nothing.
Snyder Cut.
You got
We was
nothing.
trending worldwide with the Snyder Cut. 800,000 tweets.
We brought that shit down, man. You know,
We
Hollywood.
barely got that much money for World War III.
It'll trend for a bit, but as with anything Disney Star Wars related, it'll pass into basically oblivion, and no one will care about it anymore. But anyway, on that note,
the Virgin released the JJ Cut is nothing compared to the Chad released the Snyder Cut. Make no mistake, people.
On that note, thank you all for showing up to my stream on Friday. I want to thank my breathtaking, glorious panel, the toxic males, and the one female holding up the internalized misogyny on my end. So until then, release the Snyder Cut, as Lethal said. I don't care about the JJ Cut, and I will see you all later. Good night, everybody.
Ryan's not toxic; he's just heartless.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are